Today's special unit is a bit fragile and self-conscious, so make sure that you approach them slowly, calmly when you go up to say hi. Hydralisk.
Oh, pitiful.
The Hydralisk is the Zerg's mid-tech ranged attacker. They are morphed from larvae so long as a Hydralisk den is present on the map. At a cost of 150, they are a mild investment compared to other Zerg options. 2 supply cost, 90 life, and 0 base armor. Their attack is their claim to fame. Needle spines that deal 12 damage every 0.59 seconds at range 5. If you just said whoa, then whoa indeed, my friend. They have high DPS, but they're also quite fragile. It's the stereotypical glass cannon. There are 2 research options available at the Hydralisk Den for Hydras, both costing 100. Grooved spines will increase the attack range of all Hydras by 1, going from a total of 5 to 6 attack range. Muscular augments will increase the movement speed of Hydralisks from 3.15 to 3.94. Off creep, of course. Speaking simply, grooved spines tends to be prioritized for defensive play, as the Hydras are already moving quickly thanks to your creep spread. Offensively speaking though, muscular augments tends to be preferred since it allows for more maneuverability and chase or retreat potential. Realistically though, both upgrades are necessary for Hydras to reach their maximum potential. Hydralisks also have the ability to be turned into lurkers, which are such awesome and fantastic units that they got their own unit guide video. So when are Hydralisks useful? I know that I have jested in the past about how much these guys struggle, but it's more from a stance of, I wish they could do more. Hydras are at their most useful in defensive or supportive roles. A composition that can be commonly seen versus Terran is Hydra Ling Bane. The Hydralisks serve an anti-air and anchor role, giving the Zerg the ability to deflect drops and attacks in the mid-game long enough to stabilize economically and then pounce with mass Ling Bane later on. Versus Protoss, Hydralisks are essentially the anti-gateway unit. They have a similar range and behavior to Blink Stalkers and Adepts, but much higher DPS. Charge lots and Archons will fare better than most against Hydras, but they can still fall prey to how overwhelming Hydralisk attacks can be. Other than as a stable anti-gateway unit, or as I like to call them, lurker larvae, there's just not a whole lot of use for Hydras in ZVP. ZVZ, however, is an entirely different beast, and Hydralisks can get the most usage in this matchup, if you make it out the Ling Bane phase. Their DPS can easily tilt the advantage in a Roach versus Roach battle. They may not be able to chase mutas very well, but they can at least guarantee that the mutas will not engage your army. Lastly, Hydra Lurker Viper is the late game ZVZ composition. Ah, the Hydralisk. Long has it been since the days of the Brood War, where these guys were the bread and butter, all-purpose unit. They're now much more fragile, and serve what I would consider to be a not-so-obvious role. Their problems are not really their own fault or doing, it's more how strong splash damage and air units can be in Starcraft 2. The Hydra is just too fragile to compete, especially considering that they're more expensive than other Zerg options. Generally speaking, your counterplay will fall into one of three categories: a force that utilizes splash damage, something that can outrange the Hydralisks, or a group that is capable of overwhelming them. Terrifying Terrans. Both bio and mech compositions allow for the adequate dispatching of Hydralisks. Siege tanks tend to be the primary response, as their long range and splash damage can help to shut down many Zerg threats from a safe distance. Even though, on paper, Hydras can trade well versus both Marines and Marauders, I still want to highlight the tried and true MMM as a possible counter. The rationale behind that is more in the cost efficiency of bioforces. Their DPS to cost ratio is just so good. Lastly, I want to highlight the Thor. Not that you mech lovers needed a reminder. 30 base damage per cannon shot. 30. Those 90 life Hydras have no chance. Protoss players, splash damage is the name of the game versus Hydras. Your single target damage options such as Stalkers and Immortals will tend to struggle. The easiest and most reliable answer I can recommend is the Colossus. Although it is vulnerable to other Zerg threats, pitting 2 to 3 Colossi against a Hydralisk army is the quintessential hot knife through butter analogy. A strong second pick would have to be Psionic Storm. Keep your Templar on a separate control group, A-move your main army, then focus on dropping the Storms on groups of Hydralisk. Best case, you take 80 of their 90 hit points. Worst case, the Hydras are spending more time moving out of Storms than they are attacking your army. I'm going to hate myself for saying this last one, but I think I should highlight it anyways. Carriers. Hydralisks may be able to handle 1 or 2, but as soon as that count gets too high, the carriers reign supreme. Zerg Zookeepers. As I said, Hydras tend to get the most usage in this matchup, since they can really shake up the Roach Wars stage of the game, as well as open the path up to Lurker tech. The bulk of your main army is not likely to change. You should still have a lot of Roach Hydra, but here are some supporting options to consider adding in. Number 1. Banelings. When neither or both units have their speed upgrades, the Banes will outpace the Hydras. Couple that with their incredible splash damage and bonus versus light targets. Well, I'll let you do the math. How about that? Number 2. Infestors. The focus with these bulbous cuties is solely on fungal growth. Not only does the spell deal 30 damage to affected enemies, but it also slows their movement speed, which can be quite the death sentence in ZVZ. Finally, it is time to bring up the Viper. Blinding Cloud is really the only useful ability here. It won't hurt the Hydras, but reducing their attack range to melee could mean that they get out of position or get stuck behind your opponent's hungry roaches, and therefore unable to attack. All around, it's a helpful spell. While they are not the most powerful of Zerg contenders, they are certainly an iconic unit that many of us know and love. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.